Okay, hello everybody. Back again. Got a new guest. I've got Armando here with me, and Armando is another film scholar and lover like me. Uh, Interesting story about how we met. We ran across each other at a preview screening of the
Tragedy of Macbeth.
the excellent. Oh, I think I can hear myself on your end.
Oh, shit. Is that better?
I think I can still hear it.
Oh my gosh. Here, what if I mute myself for when you're talking, and then I'll unmute myself when I'm talking?
I think I can still hear it. Let me see. There's a bit of a delay. Hold on. Let me see if I can hear myself. I don't know. Do you have like myself in another browser?
I do not think so. All I have open is the StreamYard window.
Okay. Maybe it's on my end. Okay, I think it's good now. All right, sorry about that. Anyway, okay, so we met at a screening of The Tragedy of Macbeth by Joel Cohen, which is really excellent.
Denzel.
Yeah. I forget how many. It should be up for a bunch of Oscars. I forget. I don't remember anymore. I think it's
up for that's for sure, probably.
Yeah. Anyway, it was an excellent movie, and we got to talking. And we were just like, hey, we should hang out and talk about some movies at some point. And I think now was finally the right time, and so we decided to talk about
stars aligned. Finally,
stars have aligned. So we're talking about this film, Sweet Smell of Success, which is a really interesting film.
Super.
So this film, it's like a noir film from the 50s. And it's like really, it's just like a really well done film. I feel like it's a bit underrated, under the radar.
Absolutely.
It's not talked about as much as I think it should be, but it's just one of the best kind of this sort of like noir, gritty, grimy crime.
I read the Criterion essay for it, and they purposefully. I'm not sure if it was just the author of the essay trying to infer the parallels, but they were like it's in a similar vein of The Great Gatsby, where morally duplicitous characters, shows that the American dream isn't really all that it's cracked up to be. They even said something about like you remember the intro where like you have the van and they have like JJ's eyes printed on the van.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is kind of like the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eppelberg, watching football.
Yeah, totally. I can definitely see the parallels there because like there's this type of, it's like a cynicism of this time. It's supposed to be, oh, well, this is like a perfect time. It's like the 1950s. It's post-war. It's New York.
Yeah.
It's so glamorous. You can see the city, and the city looks kind of nice.
With like this beautiful like I'm not sure if tracking shot is the right term, but like you see the Broadway lights, you see the glimmering city. New York is alive. You have this hustling, bustling jazz score accompanying it all.
Yeah,
it looks awesome.
And everyone's dressed really nice, right? Like it's nighttime, and everyone's in a suit, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. But maybe it's not. And like like one of the opening shots is like was it Sidney Falco, who's played by Tony Curtis. He's looking at this magazine, this newspaper that he buys, and he's just like, oh shit, this isn't good for me. Yeah, and he throws it in the garbage. And it's just like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
And this guy, like the main character, is just like, I mean, he's just such a slimy kind of guy.
Absolutely. If anything, I know this predates Uncut Gems by like half a century, but he really does remind me of that sort of like profiteering anti-hero where he's always $1 short and he's trying to use anyone and everyone that he can to make a quick buck.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me, so like he gives a speech to, so like basically just to kind of give an idea of what the plot's about. So was it JJ Hucksecker? So this guy is like the titan of the New York like magazine and newspaper press. So basically everybody reads what he writes.
Yeah, so like a mention in his column is essentially a golden ticket in showbiz.
Yeah, and so he has a ton of power. Like there's even this unbelievable scene where he talks to this like sitting U.S. senator, and it's like basically the senator is pleading fealty to him to sort of kingmake the rest of his political career.
Yeah,
and so he's wielding all this power, and so because of that, there's all these other, I guess you could say, vassals, people who want to curry favor with him, and they use that to make money, and that's what Sidney Falco does.
Yeah, Tony Curtis being the primary agent, like the one with the most focus.
Yeah. And so there's a scene at the end, like the whole conceit of the film is like Hucksecker has this really very almost Shakespearean kind of weird attraction to his sister.
Yeah.
Like this infantilization, he wants to keep this relationship with her, and so he doesn't want her to be with anyone else.
It's sort of like a weird, perverse, paternal almost. Like the sister is kind of like she needs to be his songbird in his gilded cage, you know?
Yeah. It's just it's really interesting. It's really interesting. But like, and there's this other shot I love where like he's at his desk and he's like writing or typing, and she comes in, and then we see like the reverse shot of like him behind his desk, and we see he has this massive fucking painting or this massive photo of her on his desk. That's basically the only thing that he can really see other than the stuff that he's using to type is her face.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's like, whoa. I to me, that just like perfectly encapsulates it.
It's weird.
It's weird, but this guy has so much power that.
Yeah. The guy smack talks a U.S. senator, you know, like it's crazy how much like power, like even back then, like media and I think the fourth estate is the term used to refer to it. Like had even back then.
Yeah, I mean it's even more power because like the newspaper was how people got information, and so they took that as being true.
Yeah.
So if as we see later on, like if people say, "Hey, you did this, you did that," and it's in the newspaper, they think it's true.
Yeah. Like he cuts down the senator very quickly by saying like, well, the rumors going around is that you're carrying around that girl for sexual favors, And just
exactly.
Like the senator crumpled.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, and he was there. It was like three of them. It was him, this girl, and I guess like the senator's handler or like the girl's handler.
Yeah.
And he's like, basically he's just like, yeah, you what's going to happen to your career if that information gets out?
Yeah. What if I publish to my 60 million readers that you're having an affair? Buddy, you're out of office and you're out of a job.
Yeah, you're out of office, you're out of a job. Or you could be president and you can do what I want. Crazy. That scene is so good because the other thing is Hucksecker has this long speech about who Sidney Falco is.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know if I've ever heard anything so poetic, but also just like so demeaning.
Yeah. Like, how he says like, oh, he has all these different faces. And, credit where credit is due. I think Burt Lancaster's character is extremely accurate when describing Sidney. But still, like, to so eloquently yet viscerally rip someone apart.
Visceral. Like, it's just so visceral, like the way that he just assails him.
Yeah.
In front of his face. And at the end, he has this great line, "Match me, Sidney." He's like, light up my cigarette, boy.
Guy's the king of the world, man.
Yeah. He is the king. He is the king of this little empire.
The police force, effectively, is his own private Gestapo. They're his bodyguards. They're his bullies. They're his thugs.
Yeah, they're his thugs. And they hear him say something. Hey, this person did this. This person has some weed. I'm gonna smack him upside the head.
Gotta hospitalize them.
Yeah. So basically
imagine cops hospitalizing people over minor trivialities.
Yeah.
What a work of fiction.
Yeah, that could never happen.
Only in the movies.
Only in the movies, yeah. So that's what's so great again about this film. Like they're really kind of like assailing so many different levels of society.
Yeah.
The cops are corrupt. The media is corrupt.
Yeah.
And then there are these, urchins beneath these media kingpins who are like currying favor with them. It's like, whoa, what the hell kind of society is this?
The way they can survive is to like try and appeal to these proverbial gods,
Yeah, totally. So basically JJ has sent out Sydney to like, okay, I need you to, because I can't be the one to break up my sister with this other guy, guy who's in a jazz band, but I need you to do it for me. And I don't care how you do it, but you need to do that. And if you do it, then I'll kind of maybe give you something that's going to help you make some money.
I'll give you a little bit of cheddar in this rat race.
Yeah, exactly. And so Sydney's running around trying to figure out a way to basically get this thing done. Yeah, and so he figures out, okay, so I need to smear the guy. And so I can smear him by trying to get someone in another paper to write something about, oh, he has weed on him and all this other stuff.
Yeah, he's a communist associate.
Exactly. Some red scare stuff.
I think I'm paraphrasing here, but something along the lines of like, oh, he's smoking grass with the Reds or something like that.
Yeah. Just the in the 1950s, the worst thing you could do is smoke weed and be a communist. So,
and today we call it college.
Yeah, I mean, basically. Oh man. So they decide. So he decides, okay, so I'm gonna try and blackmail basically this guy that I know who's sleeping with this other girl. So he goes to him, and the guy's like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to print that. And Sydney confronts this guy in front of his wife. And he's like, they have this subtextual conversation between the three of them where he's like, I will out what you did in front of your wife if you don't print this.
Yeah.
The guy has like a change of heart. He's like, I just won't do it. And then he tells his wife what he did.
Yeah. It's kind of scary to me because like, one of like the great powers that both JJ and Sydney to a lesser extent wield are, I don't want to say lies essentially, but like our stories, stuff that we can imply.
Totally. Yes.
JJ treats his column like the word of God, and in this rare moment, the guy, I won't say he fully breaks the power Sydney has over him, but he neutralizes Sydney's threats by just telling him the truth.
Yeah, and it's such a like interesting moment too because he wins by doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And he exists in this universe where everyone does the wrong thing. Everyone does the most evil thing possible.
Yeah, everyone's two-faced, everyone's telling lies. They're all a bunch of rats trying to climb up over the other.
And so for Sydney, instead of like maybe thinking, hey, this is probably not going to work out, he kind of just like doubles down and quickly finds himself into the next part of this scheme. I really like this scene too. So like, I forget exactly what this guy, but he meets this guy and basically the guy's like, yeah, I'm like kind of really lonely. And Sydney had previously talked to this girl who was sort of like a courier,
like a cigarette seller, like the kind that had like the tray sticking out.
Mm-hmm. It's one of these like kind of gentlemen's clubs. I don't know if you've seen what's that movie? I forget. It's the new Edgar Wright movie, but they're sort of a similar...
Last Night in Soho.
Yeah, Last Night in Soho. They're sort of a
character essentially.
Yeah, they're sort of a similar sort of thing that is explored, where like these places would just be. I mean, it's almost like a brothel on the like a strip club.
Kind of like a high-end brothel where you can drink whiskey on the rocks with the other established gentlemen.
Yeah, and then you're like, hey, I like that girl, and then you just you lay $200 on her plate, and then she comes meet you at your apartment.
Yeah. I think the exact line, not Sydney tells the guy, but the guy says like, no, I think Sydney tells him, you'd walk a mile for a pretty girl. And he goes like, I'd walk 3, and then Sydney has the light bulb in his head. Like, oh, I'm just going to pimp out this desperate cigarette girl for my own personal gain.
Yes. And it's just like, and then, so she's waiting for Sydney at his, like, I guess, I don't know if he has an apartment / like his working situation. I feel like it's.
I think it might be like it's both a living flat and also his office.
Yeah, because like his secretary was also there when he's during the working hours. Because she's waiting there for him, this cigarette girl, and she opens the door, she sees Sydney, and then the other dude jumps out, and she's like, "Oh shit, what have I gotten
into?" Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, this is me inferring here, but to my understanding, I think Sydney and the cigarette girl have hooked up in the past, and he was trying to like say, "Oh, you free later?"
Yeah, yeah.
It broke my heart when she came to the door, so expectant, so happy, so excited, and then it gets sad.
It's so and we get into the situation where like everyone, it's again, and what's so great is like it's all mostly subtextual.
Yeah,
about like they all know what the situation is. Like
Sydney's perfectly, to me, like the dialogue perfectly dances around it every single time with just like the most perfect wordplay and eloquent language possible.
Totally. It's so well done because again, they all know what's happening here. He's pimping her out, but they don't want it to be awkward. And so she kind of makes it awkward at first. And then he does this really fucking slimy thing to like kind of throw it back on her. She like goes into the other room, slams the door. And then he comes in, he's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to help you out. And it's like, what the fuck? And then he's like, okay, just walk out of the door. And so he's like doing the power play on her.
Yeah.
And she breaks. She's like, okay, I'll do it. Fine.
Yeah. The way she just like bends her head so low, like saying her stuff's like back on the dresser in defeat, breaks my heart, man.
Yeah, it's so sad. And so then Sydney gets this thing that he needs in this moment.
The rat gets his cheddar.
Yeah, he's good.
The dog gets his bone, as they keep calling him in the movie.
Yeah. He's a hound dog looking for that next fix of something.
Yeah.
And so I forget exactly, like there's some more stuff, like then there's this great scene where there's a bunch of scenes where we kind of get this an idea of what the relationship between the jazz player and the sister is.
Yeah.
It's very sweet and nice. And she's not even able to tell her brother, who already knows, but she's not able to like actually
tell him directly, like a normal, healthy relationship in which people can be open with each other.
Because she like has that fear because she knows he's not going to be responsive to it on some level. And so she's fretful. And then, we start to get these as the machinations of what they're doing. Once the smear gets out there and, the soon-to-be husband like confronts Sydney. He's like, what are you talking about? I don't know. Like, what have I done?
What are you doing in my office, huh?
Yeah. I had no idea. Now, unfortunately for Sydney and them, their plan goes a little too well because they just wanted it to be like, she kind of reads some stuff and it's like, oh, this guy's a weirdo. I can't be with him. Yeah. Instead, he gets fired. And so then she kind of has more sympathy towards him.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I guess, worked too well, or it hasn't worked exactly in the way that they wanted. So then JJ's like, okay, so I have to play the savior.
Yeah.
I have to play the savior. I have to get him out of this situation.
Perfectly manipulated and pulled and cut the puppet strings to make him look like this all-loving savior,
benevolent person. Yeah,
father figure. Like, oh, I'm gonna take care of you, Susan. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Susan. Don't. I would do whatever it took to make you happy. Okay, sure. And so then we have this. They have this meeting between all of them where it's like a confrontation.
Yeah.
And
the dialogue is just—it's
perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. And it's also just like I love the way because they contrast like the would-be husband,
Dallas. I think is his name.
Yeah, Dallas. Like they depict him as being like, sort of like the American everyman.
Yeah.
He's like very good for the sake of being good and being true and honest.
Yeah.
And JJ and Sydney are just like the fast talking, they always have a quippy reply to anything that he says.
Yeah.
And I think there's even a point where like basically Dallas totally tells off JJ, and then Sydney's like, "Oh,
you got more twists in you than a barrel full of pretzels." I think was the one.
Yeah, and it's just great to see how smug the two of them are. But they get out of the situation basically getting what they want. Like Susan is like, "Okay, this isn't gonna work out," and
he's so overwhelmed being surrounded by like these three, highly opinionated men.
Yeah. So she's like, I can't do this. I gotta quit the situation. And so he's won. JJ's won. He got what he wanted. And so in return, I guess there's something like they're gonna go, like JJ and Susan are going on some kind of like vacation, basically.
Yeah.
And while he's gone, JJ's gonna basically have Sydney take his place. So then he would be like, he's like,
who do you think writes the column while I'm on vacation? The moon?
Yeah. Great stuff.
Burt Lancaster's cadence and tenor, and just, I don't know. He's not dramatic, but he is menacing,
He's very menacing. And especially like behind those glasses and stuff, there's just something about him.
Yeah. I read somewhere that the cinematographer, James Wong Howe, also Chinese American cinematographer way back in
57. Yeah.
He applied Vaseline to the lenses in order to give them like a more distinct malevolent shine.
Yeah, I think they did a really great job, especially for a black and white film, to like, it's got that noir aesthetic, but in a different kind of way. It feels, it's not like the blinds cutting people. It's just like
black and white doesn't necessarily mean you can't do it with style. Look at Night of the Hunter.
Yeah, totally. But in all of his, again, this sort of Shakespearean sort of tragedy, JJ can't allow Dallas to put him down like that.
Yeah.
He's just too arrogant to do it. He's like, if he insults me, he's not just insulting me, he's insulting all 60 million of my readers.
He like channels nationalism in this really weird way where he's like, oh, I'm not just defending myself. I'm defending my American readership. It's like, no, Jay, you're just a jerk. You're just a dude. Jerk.
Yeah, you're just a dude. But he's got it in, and Sydney's like, dude, you've won. You have won.
Yeah.
You can't, if you go any further, you're gonna bring them back together. And he's like, I don't care. And the little carrot that he pulls on him is, I'm going to anoint you.
Yeah.
I'm going to anoint you if you do this. And so I need you.
I'll let you hold my scepter and wear my crown.
Yeah. You get a taste. You get a taste of the power. And so Sydney's in.
Sweet smell of success.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. Yeah. And so he's like, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. I'm the biggest rat in the rat race. Like, I'll do anything to get over the next rat.
He was about to swear on his mother's grave that I won't do this unless you write the column. I'll do this.
Yeah, I'll do it. So they have to frame him with the weed.
Yeah.
Basically. So, they find where he's at. They stick some weed. He sticks some weed in his coat pocket. And then when the cops, see him come out the door, they beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And arrest him.
Hospitalize him.
Yeah. Yes. Not messing around.
I remember I actually remember, like, I really liked when they depicted the cop he shows up, like they underlit him so like his smile is like especially more menacing. And I'm like, geez Louise, I don't want to be around this guy. Like Sydney has every reason, like he's terrified of him whenever he interacts with him. He has every reason to be. Yeah,
and he kind of plays off by like calling him like the fat guy or something like that. Like, oh, you're JJ's fat friend, But he's like, oh yeah, you keep laughing, buddy, because it's coming around to you.
Because he can beat you to a pulp and he'll get away with it scot-free.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they do this beating, and then we get this scene where Sydney's like, where he has that line about the sweet smell of success.
Yeah.
Where he's basically basking in the glory of what he's done. He's drinking with friends.
He's in the high.
There's some business partners who are saying, oh yeah, we're gonna give you more money to work with you.
And there's a. Do you remember the comedian? It's not really a subplot because it's only like 2 scenes, but there was a comedian he tried to like sell himself as a press agent to, and I remember this scene because again it's another scene which makes you despise Sydney to the very core, but he talks to the comedian and the guy is saying like I don't want a press agent, I don't want a press agent, and Sydney's like, well, I'm not trying to sell myself as a press agent, but I can get you on JJ's column, no problem. It's like, okay, you are trying to sell yourself. You're just a two-faced liar. And then he calls up his secretary and he pretends like he's talking to JJ.
Yeah.
The whole time the comedian is like watching with these big puppy dog eyes because he's like, oh my God, this is my break. This is my break. But Sydney's selling bullshit.
He's selling bullshit. I love that scene too because like the secretary answers and then he just keeps talking and talking and she just like puts down the phone and just walks away.
I would too, man.
A common occurrence in the hustle.
Yeah.
That he's putting on.
Sure.
Yeah. So if fake it until you make it, right?
And as Sydney is, drinking, toasting to the sweet smell of success, that's when the comedian reappears and says, "So Sydney, is my name going to be on JJ's column or not? Because that's what you promised me, and I'm kind of putting my livelihood on you, bud." Sydney just waves him off because he's a jerk.
Yeah, Sydney's a just trash human.
Yep.
But like the other thing too is like the dynamics of power too, and how these things work. Like when people have that type of popularity and power and influence
and capital.
Yeah, they can just do that. You can do that. You can just like, oh, you're a peasant. I'm going to throw you to the trash bin.
Yeah. Like you can possibly get me more money, If I give you 10% of my current paycheck, maybe you can turn that around into a mention in JJ's column and my career will launch from there. It's always like, to me, like that's like the common theme of, well, not necessarily like, because there's also like the severe power imbalance between JJ and his sister, right?
Severe, yeah. Totally.
Keeping her locked up like a princess in a tower.
Yeah, basically, that's what it is. That's what it feels like with that massive picture of her on his desk. Oh man! And so then we get to
call him in the ring, dude.
Yeah. It's precious, literally. So then we get to the climax of this film, and like, so while he's at this little, gathering, Sydney is where he's like celebrating his success, that sweet smell of success. Yeah. He gets a call from like JJ, and he's like, basically he has to like, oh, come boy, I need you to do something for me.
Yeah.
And shows up at JJ's apartment and the door's open, so he walks in and then he sees Susan is like kind of in a weird disheveled state, and she's just like basically he sort of gleans that she's like really sad and suicidal about the situation, but he kind of plays like no, you're not going to kill yourself.
Yeah. He tries to like tough talk his way out. Like, to me, the scene was, I'm not sure if satisfying is the right word, but like I think Sydney is greatest, I'm not necessarily sure if like strength or weapon is the right term, but it's his mouth, his ability to peddle bullshit.
Yeah.
He oh, come here, Mr. Comedian, I can convince you, but I'm going to tell your manager to back off with my tough talk. And, in this instance, he tries to tough talk Susan out of this suicide attempt, this severely distressed girl, saying, you're not going to kill yourself. You're kidding yourself, you silly woman.
Yeah, he said something like you just need to like lay down in your bed. It's fixed as all women's ills. And it's like, and he has this, it's really great, but really fucked up. He's like, it's like, it's in women's nature to like sort of be sad and then just like cry it out and then just, but not do anything.
Yeah.
The women's ways is to like, say, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to kill myself. And he says, that's the women's way, just as it is for men to hustle and try and make money and try and get stuff and fame and power.
Yeah.
And
anything, I feel like that's his internal justification for like what he does and like why he doesn't try to use empathy or compassion in the situation.
Yeah. That's his credo. That's his life.
Yeah.
Philosophy.
That's his animalistic drive,
Yeah. But she's not playing around. She's not playing around. And so she gets to the balcony and he tries to stop her.
Yeah.
And then JJ walks in. And this is a really awkward situation to be in where she's like not really wearing clothes and he's got her and the room
on the bed.
Yeah, holding her down on the bed and like everything is totally disheveled in her room. Yeah. Everything. So, you know, any kind of smart person would be like, well, this is an assault.
Yeah. Why do you have your hands on my sister? You know?
Yeah. And then he's like, so what's going on, Sydney? He's like, oh, well, you called me. I called you? He's like, I didn't call you. He's like, and he's like, oh shit. And so Sydney's been played.
Yeah. He's been
played by her. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And he even has a line later, which is really great, where Sydney says to Susan, like, oh, you grew up fast. Which I really love, because she's learning to play the game.
Yeah, she's finally, after like being bounced around like a pinball by Ivy's crafty, manipulative liars, she in turn has learned to use lies to her own advantage.
Yeah, she crafts her own narrative.
Yeah.
And it gets her what she wants, which is to destroy all of them.
Yeah. And, you know, in a weird, oddly karmic way, you know, JJ starts beating the crap out of Sydney, and then Sydney goes like, no, well, you told me to frame Dallas for having weed on him. And then the sister's like, oh.
Yeah. So he finally tells the truth.
Yes.
Finally tells the truth.
Yeah.
But truth isn't going to win in this situation for him, for Sydney.
Yeah.
So he's still screwed. And then JJ's like, well, no, you're lying. And so I'm going to tell my cop friends that you planted the weed.
Yeah.
So they're going to come for you.
And as a result, like, I don't think it's ever explicitly stated, but I think it's safe to assume that Dallas's name is cleared a bit after this. But yeah, no, like to me, like I found that kind of like a poetic way, because I think for like the whole movie, Sydney's trying to curry JJ's favor, you know, jumping through all these hoops for him like a good dog, you know, thinking he'll earn JJ's prestige and loyalty and capital. But, you know, kind of like how every powerful man in the world operates, on a whim, you know, you'll be in the Golden Palace, and as soon as he changes his mind, you're getting the crap beaten out of you by a cop.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't, you know, there's this thing in, I forget what it was, but it's like, it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven.
Yeah.
But it's not better to serve the devil than be a good person, probably, because the devil will turn on you at any second, you know, and he just turns on him because it's like he's just an asset. Sydney's just an asset, just like any other person, you know. Once he's lost the value of him, done.
Yeah.
But yeah, the final fait accompli. So Sydney is like screwed, and so he's like, I'm gonna tell everybody the truth, blah blah blah. And JJ's like, I don't give a crap. So he goes running off. Sydney goes running off. But then Susan is like, I'm out. I'm leaving. Yeah. This is finally it for me. Yeah, she's like, I'm not going with you on this little trip. I'm not doing anything with you.
I'm gonna reunite with the man I love.
And I'm done with you. And then he's like, in a JJ way, he's very heartbroken about it, but he can't do or say anything.
Yeah.
And he stands at the door as she just walks out, and then he closes the door behind her, and he's just like distraught.
She's walking off into the sunset as like the optimistic music playing. You know, she spent the entire film getting screwed around and pushed around by these awful men, and I think she's really the only one who gets a happy ending.
Yeah. Because the ending we get for our protagonist, the main character Sydney, is he comes outside and he sees his nemesis cop guy friend. Like who's smiling, just like that smile you were talking about when you beat up Dallas. He's got that smile on his face when you see, and it's even more kind of like joyful. Like he is just ecstatic
to someone he really doesn't like.
Yeah, he is ecstatic to just beat the shit out of Sydney. And so then he gets cornered in like Times Square in the 50s. It's just this beautiful shot of Times Square, but like, you know, we're basically seeing this guy get jumped by cops.
It's like a weird. It's kind of like I'm not sure. I don't want to say odd because I don't want to say it's like imply that it's negative, but it's a kind of cool juxtaposition where you see the majesty of New York, but kind kind
the
of
grime.
not just crime, but like legalized violence. This is no one's gonna bat an eye at a cop, at this guy beating the crap out of another guy because the violent man is wearing a badge.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's like it's almost like the way the world works. It's how this world works. Right? JJ says this guy's bad, so people beat the crap out of him. It's written in the paper, so it has to be true.
Yeah. If it comes from the men of power, it must be the truth.
And that's pretty much it. That's how the film ends. Like our protagonists, get a sour ending, which they kind of deserve. And the one good character, okay, wait, can you say that again?
His own comeuppance.
Yeah, he gets his own comeuppance finally. And it's such an interesting film because like the dialogue is incredible. Like the way they speak, it's so perfectly. I don't know if people actually spoke like that, but
it is damn entertaining.
Yeah, it's so witty, it's so poetic, it's just so beautiful.
And it's such vivid words. Like one of my favorite sayings is I think JJ is talking to Sydney, and JJ in this very stoic way says, "You're a cookie full of arsenic." And I'm like, my God, who comes up with words like these, man?
I know. Like I said, it's like Shakespearean, just like every word just feels like there's weight and wit.
To me, like a sort of uniquely Americana Shakespearean, emulating that era.
Totally. Yeah. If Shakespeare were alive, he'd write Sweet Smell of Success at the time. If he were
absolutely,
transport him 200 years or whatever. Yeah. So this is an excellent film.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on it, just overall?
I think it's brilliantly shot. I think it's brilliantly acted, brilliantly written. And one thing I personally really appreciate about it, it's only 90 minutes.
It's short.
I can watch it in an afternoon and I'll still have the rest of the afternoon free,
Yeah, it's short, but it's really something. It's very powerful. And again, like all the acting is amazing. I think Tony Curtis is like, for such a like this has to feel like the character people would die to play.
Yeah, and my understanding, Tony Curtis was in like a bit of a crossroads himself. Like he was accumulating some success, but not nearly as much as Burt Lancaster. So if this was an opportunity for him to shine, he needed to take this role and take it all the way to high heaven,
Yeah, totally. I think this film quickly has become one of my favorites, like of all time. I just feel like there's something so poetic and beautiful about it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of illustrative of like what you can do with film, especially like the fact that our main point of view characters are all just like evil, like they are evil or scummy or both.
Completely unsympathetic, but I think we at least understand their motivation, and their ethos.
And it makes us love the world that they're in because we're just like, wow, like this. There's just so much there because I want to know like how did they get to this place? How did they continue to survive in this place? Like, everything about it is.
To me, like Sidney lives his life on a knife's edge, and like from moment to moment, he threatens to fall off because he's leaning too far this way. He threatens to fall off because he's leaning too far that way. Some sort of like hyper manic circus balancing act he does to like keep his nose afloat.
Yeah, exactly. And this is so in contrast with what the depictions of the time are on a certain level. Like there's that Hollywoodization, kind of like the Douglas Sirk. It's beautiful, it's happy, everyone's living in a
Post-World War II economic success.
Yeah. And this is just so grimy and grungy
and exploitive. This is a world where the charismatic, fast-talking salesman will sell you out in 1 second and pimp out a girl in the other.
Totally, and not think twice about it. Like that's his daily life. That's an afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
A successful afternoon. He's done that.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, cool. Yeah. Any last parting thoughts before we say adieu?
I just have this in mind because I recently watched Spartacus, Kubrick, Burt Lancaster, Kirk Douglas one. It was bothering me so much trying to put a name to the actor who played the cop. But he is the priest from the last act of Paths of Glory, in case you have not seen it.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a minute, but I definitely I don't know if I remember the character, but that's cool. I mean, it seems like he's a man of this era.
Yeah.
A character actor of this era.
Yeah, especially, you know, he has that like presence, and I don't know, I like he's a bigger guy, you know, he can easily fill into that character actor role.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's very well put into this. I mean, even like that thing with the cop, because like there's this thing where he talks to JJ, like basically why he's in the employ of JJ, like basically he got a bad rap for something, the cop. Yeah. So then JJ got him out of it, and so now he's like, he feels like he needs to be loyal to him, so he's his attack dog.
Yeah, I feel like Sydney's the hungry, desperate dog trying to get scraps from under the table. Well, you know, the cop is the well-fed pit bull terrier.
Yeah. It's the dog, like it's really well fed, but you put him in your backyard because if anyone jumps over the fence, the dog just rips him apart.
Yep. If you say kill, he kills.
Yeah. He will just annihilate.
And he seems to really enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I think that's that should be everything. This has been great talking with this film about you. That was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me on this, man. This is like my first podcast ever, so
cool. Well, yeah, great. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you again at some point in the future.
Right.